Thing was, we'll run for a bit and then just stop. Start right back up, but just kick off and, do choke and all that kind of stuff. Run and again, just stop, which is weird. And it's done this a bit. Hasn't run really well as far as that goes for a while. The problem is this thing sits forever, and then we try to get it run it for a little bit, and then it sits forever. Today I wanted to figure out why that's going on, so I just wanted to test a couple things. This thing's cold right now. I haven't even tried to start it up, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the plug, and I've already cracked that loose. You can see in the end of the plug wire here, there's a connector, and that attaches onto this. Like I said, I cracked this loose already. The other thing is some plugs, they'll have a screw-in top here. You'll have to unscrew it to fit into the specific kind. But anyway, no big deal. So, first things first. Holy crap. So I have to go back to my old days of reading plugs when I was racing a long time ago. See if I remember all this, but this is a pretty easy one. See how black it is? That's not good. And then if I do this, look at that. That is a very wet plug. Very wet plug, which means that it's too fat. The engine's running fat. It's not lean. This should be like a gray, a light gray usually. So there's definitely too much fuel and not enough spark. That's a simple version. There's too much fuel in the mixture, and that could be the carb jets and all kinds of stuff, but it's definitely fat. Just kind of go through this spark path and just make sure everything's good and everything's working as it should, there first. I've rebuilt this carburetor, I think, 3 different times, and it is possible we need to change the jet in there for sure, but better to run it a little bit fat than lean, but this is definitely a bit, too fat. But this could be because the spark's not going out well. The spark plug might not be putting off enough spark, all that stuff. So I'm going to kind of roll through it and see, but definitely an issue there, which could be causing this thing to die out. Too much fuel, not enough spark. The spark could be not igniting bright, well enough. First thing I'm going to do is just clean this plug off. Usually you can't rake that kind of stuff off of a plug, so it's definitely getting fouled up. Fouling the plug means that it's too rich. Alright, so much cleaner. Not perfect, but for right now it's good. And then I wanted to check the gap, the next thing I do. And I have one of these here things. But I did kind of, at some point, looks like I didn't use it the proper way. I don't know if you can see that curvature there. Right there. Not so much there, but right there. Anyway. So I can't really trust the accuracy of it in this range. So what I did was I got out feeler gauges. And if you haven't ever used these, feeler gauges are basically just, they have different thicknesses. And it's just a stack of them here on this tool. And yep, just a stack of them here in this tool that you just go, and there's different thicknesses that you can go from. So this plug should be like between 25 thou and 35 thou. 28 is the norm. It's like right in a little bit above, but a tighter gap is usually better. People want to, open these up. I was one of those where I'm like, oh, I just want it bigger, so it makes a bigger spark, but not necessarily the case. It does shoot the spark further out, but as the plug wears, it's just better to have it a little bit closer. Anyway, so I checked this by just going up in the feeler gauges, different ones, until I got to the one that's, a tight fit, like that. And that's 28. So the gap is correct. So I did want to check that. I could open that up a little bit, but what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go grab some sandpaper, see if I have any, and then what I want to do is just file that down in between there and just clean the contact, because this is electrical contact, so the spark goes between here and here, and if it's not completely clean, it's not going to be a really good spark. Actually, before I do that, what I'm going to do is plug this thing in and see what kind of spark I do have currently. So let me get this thing set up and then I'll tell you about that. Alright, so what I have is I have the spark plug plugged into the connector, and I don't know if you've seen the other videos or whatever, but basically the spark plug grounds out. So this is the ground on the outside, the threads are the ground, and the positive is here, this gap right here. So it bridges that gap and creates that spark. That's how spark is done, from the positive side, which is coming from this coil. And if you didn't see that video, basically it's like, I don't know, 12,000 volts or something coming here, goes through the coil and does that to magnify it. So you definitely don't want to just hold this in your hand or anything stupid like that. Some people will use, and I have in the past too, used spark plugs to be able to ground this depending on where it is. This is easy enough that I'm going to just rest it here and use the engine block as the ground. See that spark there? See it? It's not very strong. Doesn't seem very strong. But again, I don't know. It is definitely sparking. So I didn't want to check that now before I clean it out, so we can clean it and see if that gets better. I found some 120 grit sandpaper. Sand her down a little bit better. This is the newer of the two plugs. Alright, now they both have the same treatment. Both gapped the same. This one's gapped a little bit bigger than it used to be, though. Who knows? I'll just put this back on. Alright, so we let this thing idle for a long time. Actually, let the kids ride it quite a bit, and it's much better. So I think we might have just gotten away with having to clean the plug. I've let this thing cool down a little bit. What I want to do, though, is what we call reading the plug. So I want to see what the plug looks like. I don't know if I let it cool down enough. It's still a little bit hot. Oh yeah, it's definitely hot. But you see, not the black that we had before, which is really hot. Nice coloring, much better. So I thought initially that, you know, if you look at that, you're like, oh, we're getting too much fuel. But I think the issue was that spark wasn't strong enough. And just clean that plug up, but also I gapped it a little bit bigger, within spec, but a little bit bigger, and cleaned it up, put it in, Spark seems to be better. And that's the thing, like usually if a coil goes bad or something, it's just bad. It won't start, things like that. And the sending unit, same thing. So, just got away with cleaning up a spark plug right now. Spark plug's $8 if I wanted to get one, but I think we're good now. So, got away easy.